Hamas willing to discuss freezing or storing weapons, senior official says, amid concerns over ceasefire. Hamas is willing to discuss freezing or storing its weapons, a senior official said on Sunday, amid concerns that the nascent ceasefire deal between Israel and the militant group could collapse. Speaking to the Associated Press in Qatar on Sunday, Bassem Naim said that Hamas is very open-minded about what to do with its remaining weaponry. The U.S. brokered ceasefire deal requires Hamas to give up its arms under the supervision of independent monitors as part of the demilitarization of Gaza. Disarmament is a key part of the second phase of the 20-point ceasefire agreement. We can talk about freezing or storing or laying down, with the Palestinian guarantees, not to use it at all during this ceasefire time or truce, Naim told the AP. On Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel is very close to moving to the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal. But crucial details are still missing, including what countries will take part in an international security force intended for Gaza, a critical part of the agreement. Netanyahu emphasized Israel's priority in the next phase, which is to disarm Hamas and demilitarize Gaza. It is unclear if Naim's stated intention of freezing or storing weapons would meet Israel's demand for disarmament under the ceasefire. He emphasized that any international force, even under the mandate of a UN Security Council resolution, would have limited authority in Gaza. We are welcoming a UN force to be near the borders, supervising the ceasefire agreement, reporting about violations, preventing any kind of escalations, he said. But we don't accept that these forces have any kind of mandates authorizing them to do or to be implemented inside the Palestinian territories. Meanwhile, at the Doha Forum on Saturday, Qatar, Egypt and Norway expressed their concern that the ceasefire is at risk, with negotiations over the next phase at a critical moment. Now, we are at a critical moment of the Gaza ceasefire, said Qatari Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani. It's not yet there, so what we have just done is a pause. The Vatican returns sacred artifacts held for a century to their indigenous owners. Indigenous leaders waited on the snowy tarmac at Montreal's Pierre-Elliott Trudeau International Airport Saturday, as the precious cargo was unloaded from an Air Canada jet. The boxes contained more than 60 precious cultural artifacts, including a rare Inuit sealskin kayak, which were taken from First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities more than a century ago and have been held in the Vatican museums and vaults ever since. The emotional homecoming, shown in footage by CNN affiliate CBC News, represents the culmination of a tireless 3-year campaign by Indigenous leaders, which was endorsed by Pope Francis before he died, on the heels of his historic apology for abuses committed at Canada's church-run residential schools. The repatriation of the artifacts also comes as museums around the world have increasingly returned items in their collections that were stolen or potentially acquired unethically to their countries of origin. First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse Nepinak hailed the return of the artifacts as an important and emotional moment for many First Nations across the country, during a press conference Saturday. But she acknowledged that the long project of reconciliation continues. We've come a long way, and we have a long way to go. There is no public inventory of the goods being repatriated, which represent a small portion of the thousands of colonial-era Indigenous objects in the Vatican. But among the 62 artifacts is an Inuvialuit sealskin kayak from the Western Arctic, which was the last to come off the plane in its own cargo box. CBC reported. The artifacts were first brought to Rome to be displayed at the 1925 Vatican Mission Exposition, a 13-month-long exhibit promoting the Church's influence around the world that drew millions of visitors. The Vatican has long claimed the items were gifted to Pope Pius XI, who led the Church from 1922. But this has been contested by Indigenous people in Canada. The Church's collection of Indigenous artifacts was compiled at a time when the identity of Canada's Indigenous people was being erased. through legislation which banned cultural practices and compulsory attendance at church-run residential schools designed to kill the Indian in the child. Given this context, it's highly contestable that this was the meaningful outgifting of items. Katy, assistant professor of history and Indigenous studies at Canada's Western University, told CNN in an email Monday. Calls to repatriate the artifacts began gaining steam in 2022, when a group of First Nations, Inuit and Métis delegates visited Rome for long-awaited talks with Francis about historical abuses at residential schools. That trip was followed by Francis's penitential pilgrimage to Canada, in which he apologized for the evil committed by so many Christians against the Indigenous peoples. The late pontiff pledged to return the relics, but their fate would end up in the hands of his successor, Pope Leo. The Holy See and the Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops first announced last month that the items, along with their documentation, would be gifted by Pope Leo back to Indigenous communities, calling it the conclusion of the journey initiated by Pope Francis. Grote said it is promising to see Leo taking such meaningful action so early in his papacy, hopefully setting the stage for renewed relationships between the Catholic Church and Indigenous peoples both in Canada and globally. The artifacts will now be examined at the Canadian Museum of History in Gatineau, Quebec, near Ottawa, before Indigenous leaders will find new homes for them, CBC reported. We are looking forward to being able to unbox the items in the coming days and to have Inuit leadership and Inuit experts understand exactly where these items come from in each of our communities, and to share that knowledge not only with Canadian Inuit but also with Canada as a whole. Nathan Obed, president of Inuit Tapirit Kanatami, said at a press conference, "The return of the artifacts is deeply meaningful for many Indigenous peoples in Canada, who view the objects as cultural ancestors with a sentience or life of their own." Grote said, "These cultural ancestors are now able to rejoin our communities and help with the continuity and revitalization of our cultural practices." McLaren driver Lando Norris clinches first F1 title at season-ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. McLaren driver Lando Norris clinched his first Formula One title at the season-ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix on Sunday. Red Bull driver and defending champion Max Verstappen won the race, with Norris placing third behind his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri in second, which allowed Norris to finish 2 points ahead of Verstappen in the season-long standings. Piastri was also in contention for his first F1 title and finished third in the standings, 13 points behind Norris. The 26-year-old Norris became the first British champion since Lewis Hamilton in 2020. And he also denied Verstappen a fifth straight title. Norris entered the three-way battle 12 points ahead of Verstappen and 16 ahead of Piastri. Verstappen started from pole position for Red Bull, with Norris on the front row beside him and Piastri third on the grid. Verstappen needed Norris to be fourth or lower, and Norris had to finish outside the top 5 if Piastri won. Verstappen's astounding late-season charge came close to unseating both McLaren drivers after they had shared the lead throughout the season and then were undone by driver and team strategy errors. But even Verstappen's season-leading 8th win and 71st of his career could not stop Norris, who kept his composure on Sunday, having been under severe pressure in recent weeks. The McLaren motorhome erupted with joy, and CEO Zak Brown congratulated Norris on the team radio in his usual jovial manner. "Lando, this is Zak from McLaren. Is this the World Champion hotline? You did it. You did it. Awesome," Brown said. Norris didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He did both. "Oh my God. Thanks so much. I love you guys. Thanks for everything," Norris said, and then broke down in tears. After crossing the line, Norris stayed in his car for a few moments, visibly emotional. His parents were on the side of the track, and he went over to hug them before celebrating with his McLaren engineers and mechanics. Bangkok is the world's most visited city, but badly behaved tourists are creating problems in Asia. In our roundup of travel news this week, the world's top 100 cities for 2025, the world's best hotels, the world's tallest hotel, The world's longest, deepest, undersea rail tunnel, plus 2 new record-breaking bridges in China and Kashmir. Forget Miss Universe. Paris is the travel world's pageant queen this week, having been named the most attractive city on the planet for the 5th year in a row. The top 100 city destinations index by data analytics company Euromonitor International looks at leading cities from around the world and ranks them on criteria including tourism, sustainability, economic performance and health and safety. All that popularity comes at a price though, for non-European visitors at least. The Louvre Museum in Paris will be hiking entrance fees by 45% for art lovers from outside the European Economic Area. Starting New Year, the Euromonitor report once again declared Bangkok the most visited city in the world, with an estimated 30.3 million international arrivals in 2025. Asia Pacific is experiencing a huge travel boom, with an extraordinary 10% year-on-year increase in international arrivals. But badly behaved tourists are creating problems in the region's travel hotspots. It's almost like the genie is out of the bottle. One travel analyst told CNN, "How do you put it back in?" Tokyo, incidentally, has just been replaced as the world's largest city by population, a title it's held since 2018. CNN Travel's Lilit Marcus explains in this video how a Southeast Asian capital took the crown. Whoops, they did it again. The world's tallest hotel has opened in Dubai, adding yet another record-breaking building to this city of superlatives. But its developers tell CNN it was never meant to go that high. The 377-meter Seal Dubai Marina Hotel is built on a teensy footprint of land, smaller than a soccer pitch. So architect Yahya Jan had to be clever with his design. As the old dance hit goes, the only way is up. Watch here. The Rosewood Hong Kong, a waterfront skyscraper in Kowloon, was recently named the world's best hotel for 2025 by hospitality brand 50 Best. Another waterfront property, the mid-rise Four Seasons Bangkok at Chao Phraya River, was at number 2. Norway is working on its own record-breaking project, the world's longest, deepest, undersea rail tunnel. The 17-mile passage, called Rogfast, is designed to cut travel time between cities and create a highway that doesn't need to rely on ferry crossings. Here's how they're doing it. China is also part of the bridge and tunnel crowd. The world's tallest bridge opened in Guizhou in September. The Weijiang Grand Canyon Bridge soars through the clouds at 2.051 feet above river level in the southwest of the country. Take a look at the rangy route in this video. As for the world's highest railway bridge, it opened in June in India-administered Kashmir. The 1.180-foot tall Chenab Bridge arches over the river of the same name and is the first railway link between Kashmir and the rest of India. Seasoned window washer Jang Woo-sok expertly cleans the 125 floors of Seoul's Lot World Tower, showcasing the skills he's developed since childhood. CNN's Mike Valerio joined him for a shift to find out more. One of Istanbul's most extraordinary buildings was left to rot for decades. Now it's been brought back to life. He declared himself the youngest president in the world. Then he was deported. Bananas don't grow in Tokyo. That hasn't stopped them becoming a symbol of the city. A severe storm, a special election, a rare collectible. What do you remember from the week that was? Paramount launches a hostile takeover bid for Warner Bros. Discovery. Paramount has gone straight to Warner Bros. Discovery's shareholders with an all-cash offer in an extraordinary endeavor to gain control of Hollywood's most sought-after prize, a bid that Netflix beat on Friday. Paramount was widely expected to be the frontrunner for Warner Bros., but WBD opted instead for Netflix, which it said offered a more lucrative deal. The proposed marriage with Netflix caught Hollywood insiders by surprise, including Paramount CEO David Ellison, who still contends that his deal was the better offer. "We're sitting on Wall Street, where cash is still king," Ellison told CNBC in an interview Monday. "We are offering shareholders $17.6 billion more cash than the deal they currently have signed up with Netflix. And we believe when they see what is currently in our offer, then that's what they'll vote for." Paramount offered $30 per share in an all-cash deal for the entire company, while Netflix offered $27.75 for Warner Bros. And HBO eyed $23.25 per share in cash and $4.50 in stock. The math is tricky, but Netflix believes the eventual spin-off of WBD's cable assets, including CNN, which is not included in the Netflix deal, will be worth several dollars per share in its entirety. Netflix contends that its deal will ultimately be worth more than Paramount's offer. Paramount, unlike Netflix, is seeking to buy WBD in its entirety. It notes its offer is worth $108.4 billion for all of WBD, compared to $82.7 billion for Netflix's offer, which doesn't include the value of the company's cable channels. In accepting Netflix's offer last week, WBD's board clearly decided that the deal was better. It has long been argued that the cable assets will be worth more when spun off than combined with the movie studio and HBO, unlocking significant value for shareholders. On Monday, Paramount said WBD shareholders should decide. WBD shareholders deserve an opportunity to consider our superior all-cash offer for their shares in the entire company. Ellison said in a statement, "Our public offer, which is on the same terms we provided to the Warner Bros. Discovery Board of Directors in private, provides superior value and a more certain and quicker path to completion. We believe the WBD Board of Directors is pursuing an inferior proposal." WBD stock surged 7% to nearly $28 a share on Monday, as investors anticipated a bidding war. Netflix may come back with an even more lucrative offer to counter Paramount's bid. Paramount, PSKY, rose 4% and Netflix, NFLX, fell more than 3%. If WBD ultimately chooses Paramount's offer, it would owe Netflix a $2.8 billion breakup fee. In addition to his contention that his deal offers WBD shareholders more overall value, Ellison also made the argument that Paramount's offer stands a higher chance of regulatory approval. He noted to CNBC that Netflix's offer would combine the #1 streamer with HBO Max, which is #3, a potentially unappealing prospect for skeptical antitrust authorities. Ellison touted his positive relationship with President Donald Trump, who similarly noted Sunday that he has a strong relationship with Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos. "I'm incredibly grateful for the relationship that I have with the president," Ellison told CNBC. "And I also believe he believes in competition. And when you fundamentally look at the marketplace, allowing the #1 streaming service to combine with the #3 streaming service is anti-competitive." Netflix has contended that its deal will pass antitrust scrutiny. It stands ready to refute Paramount's marketplace claims by pointing to different metrics. Nielsen's measurement of the industry shows Netflix with 8% of total TV usage time, slightly under Paramount's 8.2%. By that measure, Netflix ranks #6 on the Nielsen gauge, with YouTube at #1 and Disney at #2. Ellison said Netflix's argument was akin to saying Coke could buy Pepsi because Budweiser sold a lot of beer. YouTube is in a different category, he argued. He also appealed to consumers and the industry. He told CNBC on Monday the Netflix WBD deal would spell the death of the theatrical movie business in Hollywood. "It's bad for the consumer. It's bad for the creative community," Ellison said. "We're sitting here trying to save it." Ellison gave a sense of his plans for the broader company, creating a real competitor to Netflix, a real competitor to Disney. He said Paramount's offer would better support Hollywood's creative community than Netflix, which he argued would create an anti-competitive behemoth. "As someone who spent the last 15 years of my life producing movies and television shows, this is an industry that I love. This is an existential moment for our business. And we believe that what we're offering is better for Hollywood. It's better for customers. And it's pro-competitive," Ellison told CNBC. He said buying Warner Bros. Discovery would create a healthy competitor that would make the industry stronger. "What we are doing will create another scale, healthy buyer for the creative community and talent. We'll put 30 movies a year in theaters exclusively, Ellison said. Ellison has appointed himself an unlikely savior of Hollywood. It's early days, but he has invested substantially in Paramount in his first few months on the job. Although Ellison's politics have been largely center-left throughout his career, he has made several overtures to Trump over the past year, sitting with the president at multiple UFC events and agreeing to the administration's conditions to complete his Paramount acquisition in August. He also has sought to transform CBS News, paying top dollar for the right-leaning The Free Press and appointing its founder Bari Weiss as CBS overseer, a decision that Trump has said he approves. Ellison said if his offer wins, Paramount would combine CBS News with CNN. We want to build a scaled news service that is basically fundamentally in the trust business. That is in the truth business. And that speaks to the 70% of Americans that are in the middle, Ellison said. Ellison said he's had great conversations with Trump about Paramount's plan for its proposed news business. But he added that he didn't want to speak for Trump, whose son-in-law Jared Kushner is involved in the deal's financing. In addition to former Redbird, other investors include Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund in Qatar and Kushner's Affinity Partners, which has a substantial investment from the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, to avoid national security scrutiny. The foreign entities have agreed not to take any board seats or vote their equity stakes in the company if the deal were to go through, Paramount announced Monday. Ellison also said his father, Oracle Executive Chairman Larry Ellison, one of the world's richest people, is chipping in an unspecified amount of equity to produce the cash, an amount that David Ellison said was fully backstopped. This story has been updated with additional developments and context. Trump is the X factor in the Netflix-Warner Brothers deal. He's already tipping the scales. Netflix is preparing for a lengthy legal review of its bid to buy Warner Brothers. Paramount is launching a hostile takeover bid, and President Trump is keeping his options open. The president expressed skepticism about the Netflix deal on Sunday night and said he'll be involved in that decision, possibly portending a long and politically tainted review. But he also praised Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos, and did not explicitly come out against the deal. Nor has he posted anything critical about it on Truth Social. On Monday morning, Paramount announced it would go straight to Warner Brothers shareholders with an all-cash offer it says is more valuable than Netflix's deal. Minutes later, in a surprise twist, Trump railed against Paramount and its CEO, David Ellison, posting to Truth Social that they are no better than the old ownership for allowing 60 Minutes to interview Marjorie Taylor Greene, his ally turned critic. On Sunday evening's broadcast, Trump did not mention the hostile takeover bid. However, predicting policy decisions from a transactional president remains a fool's errand. Big business executives have increasingly sought to get on Trump's good side this term, in many cases successfully exchanging promises of investments in Trump's pet projects for favorable treatment. But Trump has to weigh the strong business relationships he seeks against his populist agenda and a base that is clamoring for the Justice Department to challenge Netflix. For now he is defaulting to, "We'll see what happens." This is a significant shift from 2016, during a previous sale of HBO and Warner's parent company. Days before he won re-election the first time, Trump said his administration would not approve the AT&T Time Warner merger, saying, "It's too much concentration of power in the hands of too few." He cited the deal as an example of the power structure I'm fighting. Some prominent Trump influencers are saying much the same thing this time around. MAGA media commentators like Steve Bannon and Matt Gaetz spoke out against Netflix's $72 billion deal for Warner Brothers. As soon as it was announced last Friday, "Trump must stop this," wrote Gaetz, who was in line to run the Justice Department earlier this year. It's normal for the Justice Department's antitrust division to examine a mega merger proposal and consider suing to block the deal. But it's not normal for the president to openly opine about it, or to say that he'll be involved. Going back decades, government regulators have generally operated independently of the president, insulated from political pressure. Trump blew up those norms during his first term, leading to widespread concerns about favor trading and corruption. The recent deals involving HBO and Warner demonstrate what's changed. Keep in mind that CNN and HBO are part of the same corporate family. Although that will change next year when Warner Bros. Discovery breaks itself into two publicly traded pieces. Back in 2017, with Trump in office and his opposition to the AT&T Time Warner deal on the record, Trump and his aides tried to influence CNN's coverage of the president, knowing that the parent company needed the Trump administration's approval to merge. There was talk of potentially replacing CNN's president to appease Trump, and talk of Rupert Murdoch trying to buy CNN to achieve the same result. But Time Warner management defended CNN's independence and did not interfere or sell off the news channel. In fact, some sources said at the time that Trump's perceived meddling stiffened the spines of the executives. When the Justice Department sued to block the deal, AT&T and Time Warner went through the long legal process. Rather than throwing in the towel, Justice Department officials insisted that the lawsuit was not related to Trump's grievances with CNN. And Trump, not yet bragging about his power the way he does now, waved off suggestions that he was involved. "Well, I didn't make the decision," he said when the Justice Department intervened. But the people running Time Warner perceived his influence. And at the end of the day, the court ruled against the Trump administration. So HBO and CNN were allowed to change hands. The next time the assets went on the block, in 2021, Trump was out of office. And there was no speculation about the Biden administration taking action based on the president's personal feelings. As Senator Amy Klobuchar said in 2017, is a long tradition of the Justice Department making legal decisions based on the facts of a case and not based on outside meddling or any kind of a political decision. That quote seems an ancient text now. Trump's personal involvement with the Justice Department is out in the open. A recent study by Reuters found more than 470 targets of retribution under Trump's leadership to date. Netflix isn't oblivious to this. Sarandis forged a personal relationship with Trump shortly after the 2024 election. A person familiar with the matter told CNN. The two men had a long, friendly dinner at Mar-a-Lago in December 2024. That meant Sarandis had an open line of communication to Trump when Netflix entered the bidding war for Warner Bros. And HBO. Sarandis flew to Washington and met with Trump in the Oval Office last month. The source said, confirming an earlier report by Bloomberg. Trump then confirmed the Sarandis meeting during a Q&A with reporters on the red carpet of the Kennedy Center Honors, an event he hosted, underscoring his interest in all things Hollywood. The president said he has a lot of respect for Sarandis and alluded to a first-name basis relationship. Ted has really done a legendary job. But he also referenced the antitrust concerns at issue, saying the combined market share of Netflix and HBO could be a problem. Netflix has its answers ready, pointing to giant rivals like YouTube in an always-changing competitive set around the world. And the company has expressed its confidence with its wallet. Netflix agreed to pay Warner Bros. Discovery a $5.8 billion breakup fee if the deal fails to overcome regulatory hurdles. That's one of the biggest breakup fees in corporate history. Ultimately, it won't be Trump's decision to make. The courts will decide the deal's fate if it's challenged. But Trump could make the most earth-shattering Hollywood merger in years significantly more difficult to move forward. Zelensky huddles with European leaders in London as Kremlin praises Trump's new security strategy. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is meeting with European leaders in London on Monday, in a show of solidarity, after U.S. President Donald Trump accused him of not reading the latest proposal to end the war and as the Kremlin praised America's new harder posture towards Europe. Speaking before his arrival at Downing Street on Monday afternoon, Zelensky demonstrated his knowledge of the plan, reiterating his officials' comments from the weekend, who said that elements of the U.S. proposal required further discussion, including on sensitive issues, such as security guarantees for the country and control over its eastern regions. Trump had criticized Zelensky on Sunday after talks between U.S. and Ukrainian negotiators over the weekend in Miami ended with unresolved questions over security guarantees, territorial issues and continued concern that the U.S. proposal tilts in Russia's favor. Trump said that Russia would prefer to have all of Ukraine and that he believes Moscow is fine with the peace plan. But I'm not sure that Zelensky's fine with it. On Monday, Zelensky said that the U.S. had yet to reach agreement on the future of Ukraine's Donbass, which includes the regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. He said Kyiv also wanted a separate agreement on security guarantees from Western allies. Above all, the U.S. There is one question I and all Ukrainians want to get an answer to. If Russia again starts a war, what will our partners do? Zelensky said, there are questions that concern Europe, and we cannot decide for Europe. We need to discuss with Europe Ukraine's membership in the EU, which is also part of security guarantees. Zelensky added that he was ready to fly to the U.S. if the president is ready for such a meeting. Trump's remarks came as the Kremlin welcomed his administration's new national security strategy, a foreign policy realignment that adopts an unprecedentedly confrontational posture toward Europe. The U.S. security strategy document, in contrast to past administrations, has dropped language that described Russia as a threat. The new document says European nations regard Moscow as an existential threat, and casts Washington as the central broker in re-establishing conditions of stability within Europe and strategic stability with Russia. Speaking to reporters on Sunday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov appeared to applaud the strategy and praised the American president, calling him strong. The adjustments we are seeing, I would say, are, in many ways, consistent with our vision, Peskov said, adding, perhaps one can hope that this may be a modest guarantee that it will be possible to continue working constructively together to find a peaceful settlement for Ukraine. At the very least, for European leaders, the timing is unsettling. The U.S. is steering the Ukraine peace talks just as its posture toward Europe hardens, raising fears that this shift could influence negotiations at a critical moment. Those issues are on the table in London on Monday, where Zelensky is meeting French President Emmanuel Macron, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The European leaders will take stock together of the situation and the ongoing negotiations within the framework of the American mediation, Macron said. Talks in Miami between U.S. and Ukrainian negotiators came to a halt Saturday with no breakthroughs, Ukrainian officials said, noting that key questions went unanswered. After 3 days of talks, difficult issues remain, Ukrainian ambassador to the United States Olga Stefanishina said Saturday. But both sides continue working to shape realistic and acceptable solutions. Territory and security guarantees have long been the central obstacles to any potential settlement. Kyiv maintains that a just end to the war must include dependable security commitments and would not require it to cede additional territory. As the diplomatic to and fro continues, Russia launched one of its largest barrages of drones and missiles in months across Ukraine, killing at least 7 people over the weekend. According to a CNN tally of local authority figures, more than a dozen more were injured. In the past week, Russia has launched over 1.600 attack drones, around 1.200 guided aerial bombs and nearly 70 missiles against Ukraine. Zelensky said Sunday. He said the primary targets of the strikes were the infrastructure that keeps everyday life going. The strikes targeted energy infrastructure in various regions over the weekend, according to the Ukrainian Ministry of Energy. Consumers in the Odessa, Chernihiv, Kyiv, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk and Mykolaiv regions were without power on Saturday, the ministry said, and on Sunday, power cut schedules were introduced in all regions of Ukraine, including in Kyiv, where residents of the capital were without electricity for about 12 hours. Ukraine's military said Saturday that it had hit the Ryazan oil refinery in western Russia, one of the country's largest refineries. In an overnight attack, Moscow did not immediately respond to the claims. Meanwhile, investigations are underway in Ireland and France after 2 more incidents. this week involving unidentified drones flying close to the coastlines of each country, marking the latest in a string of unexplained sightings in several European countries since September. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has called the spate of drone incursions hybrid warfare. Early last week, several drones were seen flying off the coast of Dublin, just as a plane carrying Zelensky for a visit with the Irish Premier was about to land. One of Trump's most consequential decisions just got more complicated. President Donald Trump last week gave his strongest hint yet that he's picked a successor to Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Investors have concerns. After months of speculation over the names of the dozen or so candidates, Trump finally said last week he knows who he will nominate to be the most powerful figure in the U.S. economy. Just days later during a cabinet meeting, Trump singled out National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett as a potential Fed chair, adding, "Are we allowed to say that?" The 10-year Treasury yield rose by 11 basis points after a report from Bloomberg on November 25 said Hassett was the frontrunner to head the central bank. And bond investors told the Treasury Department earlier last month that they feared Hassett would push to lower borrowing costs aggressively to appease Trump, according to the Financial Times, citing anonymous sources familiar with the matter. That sentiment was reflected in one-on-one conversations the department had with executives at major Wall Street banks, asset management giants and other big players in the U.S. debt market. According to the report, the unease comes at a time when policymakers are divided on how to proceed with interest rates. They fret that Hassett, a longtime Trump ally, would care more about following the president's demands than preserving the Fed's independence to set interest rates without political interference, even though the Fed chair has only one vote. Their concerns matter because markets could throw a tantrum and force Trump to withdraw his nomination of Hassett. In an embarrassing U-turn, markets really act as a sanity check for policy and other major decisions, said Angelo Corcafas, senior global investment strategist at Edward Jones. Trump's pick for Fed chair was already complicated because of Fed rules on who can serve as chair. Reshuffling his top economic advisors would add another layer of complexity. And Fed Governor Lisa Cook's future on the board is also uncertain as the courts determine whether Trump can fire her. The market is already trying to figure out how dovish or hawkish the next Fed chair may be, said Tom Porcelli, Wells Fargo's chief economist. But you don't really know how someone will behave in a role once they're actually sitting in that seat. As an independently funded agency, the Fed's ability to make rate decisions free of politics is a major reason why investors believe in the U.S. economy's soundness. Politicians around the world often want to get cheap money flowing to help earn them votes, but that risks overheating economies and boosting inflation. Long-term risks many politicians might ignore to focus on short-term elections. If investors lose that faith in the Fed, they might demand a higher return to lend the country money through U.S. treasuries or other instruments. The irony is that those higher bond yields would likely push up long-term interest rates anyway. But the structure of the Fed's rate-setting committee could help guard against political influence. The Fed chair is only one voter among 12 and cannot unilaterally veto what the majority decides. A range of views and policy approaches are represented around the table. And then everyone gets one vote, said Bill English, a former advisor to the Fed's Board of Governors. There's a committee for a reason. And if the committee disagrees with the chair, then it's possible that the chair loses a vote, which has never happened in the past, he said. The Fed chair isn't the only economic position in play right now. There's a whole web of Trump advisors who might be shuffling positions or even serving in simultaneously overlapping roles. If Trump picks Hassett to lead America's central bank, the president will have to find someone else to lead the NEC, which orchestrates White House economic policy. Trump's advisors have floated the possibility of Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent leading the NEC while remaining as Treasury Secretary. According to Bloomberg, last week, Trump reiterated that he would gladly pick Bessent as Fed chair, though the Treasury Secretary has repeatedly said he would rather keep his current role. Trump also has to consider the Council of Economic Advisers. The chair of the C is Stephen Miron, who is now on temporary leave so he can serve out a term as a Fed governor in an unprecedented arrangement. Since arriving at the Fed in September, Miron has advocated for large rate cuts, dissenting from the majority's decision to lower rates by a quarter point at both the September and October meetings. Miron's term on the Fed expires at the end of January, but in response to questions posed by senators during his confirmation process, Miron said that he won't commit to resigning until a successor has been nominated and confirmed. According to Fed rules, the chair can be chosen only from among Fed governors, and there is currently no vacancy on the board. Powell's leadership term ends in May, but he is serving a concurrent term as a governor that stretches to 2028. Powell hasn't shared whether or not he plans to remain on the board after his term as chair ends. Fed chairs typically step down altogether once their four-year term concludes. If they're not reappointed, Trump could also swap Hassett for Miron, then elevate him to chair in May. Or Trump could wait and hope that Powell announces he's stepping down next year and have both Miron and Hassett at the Fed. In the latter scenario, Trump would then, theoretically, have to select replacements to lead the NEC and C. Separately, Governor Lisa Cook's lawsuit challenging Trump's attempt to fire her over unproven allegations of mortgage fraud can also affect the makeup of the Fed's powerful board. Trump in August said he fired Cook, the first time in the Fed's century-plus history that a president has attempted to remove a sitting governor. Cook responded in the courts, and the Supreme Court is scheduled to decide the case next year. If Cook loses her case and is replaced, Trump would have effectively shaped the majority of the board at a time when the central bank's political independence is a flashpoint. There's concern about a politicization of the Fed resulting in an undesirably high level of inflation over time. English said, the market could ultimately revolt if a new chair comes in and the committee, for whatever reason, goes along with lowering rates more than they need to be lowered. Analysis. Trump's first year back in office contradicts his free speech commitments. Nora Benavides of the nonprofit advocacy group Free Press set out to catalog the Trump administration's First Amendment infringements. She soon had a list of almost 200. That list is part of a new report, previewed by CNN and out Monday, about President Trump and his administration's war on free speech. While this chilling campaign is vastly unpopular and often loses in court, its speed and scale are unprecedented in U.S. history, Benavides wrote. And the effect, she wrote, is palpable as millions may think twice about core First Amendment and associational habits, speaking out, filming police, protesting, reporting, traveling abroad, or even posting dissenting views online. Trump and his spokespeople have framed the first year of his second term very differently. As a triumphant restoration of free speech rights that were threatened by Democrats. One of his first executive orders was titled, Restoring Freedom of Speech and Ending Federal Censorship. But his aggressive attacks on dissent have sent a different message. The Free Press report asserted. Free Press, not to be confused with the Bari Weiss startup called the Free Press, advocates against media consolidation and censorship. Trump's return to office has kept the group busy. Among the many flashpoints chronicled in Monday's report, reporters roughed up while covering protests, international students detained due to political speech, federal workers muzzled, universities pressured, government critics trolled and targeted online, TV stations threatened with revoked licenses. But those examples tend to be covered in isolation, one at a time, and the sheer volume has helped ensure that even the most egregious assaults quickly fall out of the news cycle and public consciousness. Benavides wrote. Thus, the list, it shows how sectors like civil society and corporate America have faced constant challenges from the Trump administration. The media, she wrote, has been bombarded at a scale and pace no other sector has experienced. Trump fans routinely cheer on his crusades against fake news. In his second term, words have often been matched by concrete actions. Benavides wrote that Trump's verbal threats shape how his government appointees and allies operate. This censorial doom loop allows a would-be authoritarian like Trump to make passing comments of chilling policy reality. She wrote. One key example cited: the brief suspension of ABC host Jimmy Kimmel, a longtime Trump foe, after FCC Chairman Brendan Carr pressured the network and its affiliates to punish him. ABC restored Kimmel's show within a week, reportedly in part due to consumer backlash. Collective resistance has proven successful at blunting the potency of Trump's censorship campaign, Benavides wrote, asserting that it must be sustained. Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry appear together in new Instagram post. Former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and pop star Katy Perry have appeared to confirm their relationship in the only way that matters, by going Instagram official. Perry posted a carousel of photos on Saturday, featuring herself and Trudeau posing cheek-to-cheek and eating sushi while visiting Japan for a world tour, seemingly confirming the months-long rumors that they are in a relationship. That came 3 days after former Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida appeared to hard launch the couple's relationship, posting a photo on X of them alongside himself and his wife, referring to Perry as Trudeau's partner in his caption. The worlds of pop and politics colliding in this way, and the sight of Perry, known for hits like Firework and Roar, suddenly interacting with former world leaders, has made the singer and the ex-prime minister one of the year's most unexpected celebrity couples. Trudeau reposted the photo, adding that, "Katy and I were so glad to have the chance to sit down with you and Yuko," while thanking Kishida for his friendship and continued commitment to the international rules-based order. Katy Perry doing international diplomacy. Did not have this on my top risks 2025 list. Ian Bremmer, president of the Eurasia Group, a political risk consultancy, joked on X. Perry and Trudeau's relationship has been the source of fevered speculation for months. First, they were spotted dining together at a restaurant in July, then embracing on a yacht, then leaving a Parisian club hand in hand. And ever since that first rumor, the couple have captured the internet's imagination. Back in August, satirical news outlet The Onion imagined actor Orlando Bloom, Perry's ex-fiancé, dining with former German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Bloom showed his appreciation for the joke story in the comments section of The Onion's Instagram post, responding with 3 clapping hands emojis. Celebrity couples that straddle the political and pop worlds are relatively unusual, though Trudeau's own father, Pierre, another former Canadian Prime Minister, briefly dated Barbara Streisand in the late 1960s. Trudeau separated from his ex-wife, Sophie Gregoire, with whom he has 3 children, in August 2023, while Perry confirmed her split from Bloom, the father of her 5-year-old daughter, in July.
Thanks for watching. Stay informed with U.S. Central News.